Dominic D'Angelo after shows. Very well told stories tonight, I thought. I wanted to kind of get your thought process on how it's been. It's been 4 years, obviously, and a lot of growing pains, a lot of positive stuff going on too. Wanted to kind of think, what do you think that you creatively that it's something that you can improve on, but also what do you think that you really exceed at too?
Well, it's a great question. I think we can always refine and look and try to tighten things up, and sometimes everything fires perfectly, and other times, you look back and you say, what can I learn from this? And we've had a lot of strong shows this year where everything fired just about perfect, and tonight in the big matches, the big moments, I thought for whether it was the battle royal that started the show or the matches that ended the show, really was very, very high note, where it was just about as perfect as I could have hoped for that first match and those last few matches. So I was really pleased with the show. I think as far as what we can do going forward, the company's growing and changing a lot. I mean, we were a company that did 3 hours of TV live, 2 hours, and 1 hour that was often taped, sometimes live. But really, we only did 3 hours of TV a week for the last year plus. In the first couple years, we were doing 2 hours of TV a week. So to go to doing 5 hours, it's something we've never done before. It's going to really be a learning experience for us, but I'm also very, very excited about it because I think we have really exciting plans for it. I think the shows will be really good, and we've had some really strong dynamites this year, especially in recent weeks, some of our best episodes ever. And I think the pay-per-view tonight had some of the best action we've ever had in AEW. And when you're doing Double or Nothing, there's a really high expectation that you're going to put great stuff on the show, and there was a lot of great stuff on the show tonight, so I was very happy. So I'm one of the most critical, harsh people, and we'll certainly go back and take it apart and try and find things we can do better, and I think that's consistent with our approach. But overall, I'm really happy with the work we're doing, and I think we have a lot of really great people, the wrestlers and the staff, and our fans who came together to make it a really good night for the company. So thanks, I appreciate it. And there's a lot of smart people that were involved in getting together and putting a great show together tonight. Really, I thought I'm pretty happy about it. And I have to say, going into the next month, it's good timing for us to put on a good show that was very successful for us, because there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up in June for AEW.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dom.
All right, I actually do have a question that I was just thinking about while I was here. This one I think you can answer. How did it feel to invite Dr. Martha Hart here for the announcement, the opening ceremony for the Owen Hart Cup, and then also the fact that the finals will be at the Calgary Stampede, which is a pretty famous. That's where Stu Hart was run big shows, as well as obviously the famous Canadian Stampede show in 1997 was kind of in that area as well.
Yeah. Same venue, right? Yeah, same venue.
Same venue, the Saddle Dome. And also in regards to the reaction to the fans for Dr. Martha Hart, especially considering all that she has gone through in the past 20 years. How do you feel about that? And basically in regards to making history in that sense, that you will be going to Calgary to crown the second ever Owen Hart Cup champions.
Well, I'm really excited about that, and I think it's very cool for the company that our Canadian tour will coincide with the Owen Hart Cup. I think it's very fitting that we've got Forbidden Door coming up, and Owen Hart is a former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. So there's a great history that goes with Owen Hart in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He never competed in AEW, but he did compete in New Japan. So having the Owen Hart Cup tournament kick off in Canada around Forbidden Door, we have this great partnership with New Japan, and he has been a great champion for them. So I think it's very fitting, and it adds a new twist to the Owen Hart Cup. Also, to have it in his home country, Canada, where he's one of the greatest wrestlers ever. His family, probably the greatest wrestling family in the history of Canada. And I have to say that going back to Calgary in a venue where there's so much history for the Hart family, it's very exciting. Dr. Martha Hart is such a wonderful, warm person. My dad met Martha tonight and really enjoyed meeting her, and she really seemed to enjoy meeting him. Oj has spent a little more time around my family. Oj actually came to the Jaguars game at Wembley last year, and Oj has studied in London and is a really, really bright young guy. And to have Martha and Oj and the Hart family here, it was great. And Dr. Martha Hart deserves the warm reception from the crowd, and I was really pleased that she got it. And we have great fans in AEW, and they gave her a great reception. And I think people are excited about the Owen in Canada. It's very fitting. The finals in Calgary. And, I'm not sure about this. I've had some nice talks. I'm hopeful. I spoke to New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think it would be great, and they think it would be great. One of Owen Hart's great opponents, a rival. They've competed. Both former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champions. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could get Jushin Thunder Liger over to Canada, who's competed against Owen Hart, and he's competed in Canada, and he's even competed in Stampede Wrestling, Jushin Liger, and that would be something really neat. So to coincide with AEW in Canada and Forbidden Door and our partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and most importantly the Owen Hart Cup tournament, I think it would be great if Jushin Thunder Liger can come over, and I'm optimistic that he'll be able to. So thank you for asking.
Loved your hat, by the way, when you came out too.
Thank you. That was a gift from Martha. The hat was that was her hat, and she wanted to say the gangster line too. So God bless her.
Grant versus Bronx again. The introduction to Collision comes on pretty short notice, at least to us. It was introduced at the WWE up front a few weeks ago, and it's already going to debut in June. Is there anything more you can tell us about what led up to that deal happening? What led up to the show happening? I know you talked a little bit on Thursday about it was David Zaslav who came to you wanting the deal. So just how did that come together?
Well, we had a call recently. I mean, relatively recent months, from the top executives at Warner Brothers Discovery interested in expanding the partnership, and they offered us 2 hours on Saturday night, and it was like kind of a throwback to me as a wrestling executive when you hear they want to give you 2 hours primetime on TNT every week. That's a big deal. And when it's not just when it's the big boss, that is a callback to another era. And that's pretty amazing because, it was through relationships and through a lot of trust when I was unproven as a promoter and AEW had never run a single show, when Warner Brothers, WME at the time, took a chance on AEW. But now the company's changed. It's Warner Brothers Discovery. It's such an exciting time for Warner Brothers Discovery. And to have the boss of the entire studio, the boss of the entire company, David Zaslav, take an interest in AEW and say, I think we should have 2 hours of AEW Saturday night, 8 p.m. on TNT every week. I thought that was awesome. And then that made me want to step up and do another great show. And I love doing Dynamite every week, and it's my life, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But I really believe we can do another show and do Dynamite just as great, and maybe even fuel and do better shows than we've ever done before, and show up on Saturday nights and do great shows on Collision. And I am optimistic that it can actually be the greatest period in the history of the company. I think we were uniquely set up for this. I have a big roster of wrestlers. As far as how I'm going to feature them, nobody here has asked me about the mechanics of where the roster is going to go, or how I would allocate them to the different shows, and there's words that haven't been used in any of it. I'm glad. Thank you for not asking, because I wouldn't have answered it. How I'll address the allocation of the different wrestlers across the different shows, we'll be speaking to that in the weeks to come, but I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great, and I promise you won't lose anything from Dynamite. Dynamite's going to be just as great or better, but also Collision is going to be a really great show, and hopefully this will be the best period for AEW ever. So specifically to your question, I was really excited about that. I thought it came at a great time for the company. And knowing that June is going to be such a big month for us with the launch of Fight Forever and Forbidden Door and this tour of Canada and all the exciting things we have coming up, and where we're going over this summer, thinking we can take that June and hopefully parlay this momentum to get even stronger going into All In, which is such an important business milestone and just historic milestone for the company. I was really excited about it, and like you said, it came together very quickly, but yeah, it's a great opportunity. I couldn't pass up on it.
A few more for Tony.
Tony, Tony Andres from Sport News.
Hey.
Vegas has been a destination here. It's also Memorial Day weekend, which presents a lot of challenges because there's a lot going on. One, is Double or Nothing going to remain in Vegas? Is that something that you're considering? And two, if so, is there things that you want to build around this? I know there's the fan fest, but to make this like an annual thing where there's much more than just wrestling. There's more interactive. There's a lot more things that are going on in Vegas at the time.
Well, I guess a partnership with the UFC is out, but I would say that I love Las Vegas. I really have had such a great experience this week and all the shows we've done here, and I think this is a great venue for it. I haven't decided about next year's pay-per-views yet for any of them yet. But I think this is always a great venue for Double or Nothing, and certainly would be potentially great to just come back here to T-Mobile and do that. But there's a lot of great places certainly that are seeking our services, and there's some places we've done TVs this year where they've been calling out for a pay-per-view, and I thought it was a pretty realistic shout. So something to consider. But certainly this has been a great venue for us, and I really love doing it here at T-Mobile. So I'm very open to staying here.
One other question.
Please.
Is anarchy in the arena is like going to be something that is a staple moving forward? Because it's 2 years in a row, Double or Nothing back to back. I don't know if it says Double or Nothing, but it feels like something that's very unique to AEW.
Well, so it's 4 years in a row of either Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena. And when we did Stadium Stampede was a product of doing Double or Nothing in Jacksonville. And that was one of those innovations we thought really added. The first Double or Nothing was a great show, but then we added something the next couple years with Stadium Stampede we thought really worked. And then things were really cooking last year with the BCC and Jericho Appreciation Society, the pro wrestling and the sports entertainment, and it was a really hot time for it. And it felt like we wanted to bring it here, but it was a much better play to bring it to the arena versus doing it in the stadium in Jacksonville. And we were long past doing a cinematic match. I mean, this is the way we want to do it. This probably just out with the fans brawling in the crowd, brawling in the ramp, brawling, on the ring. And so we brought Anarchy in the Arena here, and then this year so it's really the 4th year in a row at Double or Nothing that we've had this wild event. And I think here certainly it would be Anarchy in the Arena, and if we ever were to do it in a stadium, then I think it would be Stadium Stampede. So it works both ways.
A few more questions for Tony.
Well, thanks. Hi, Tony. Matt Garland's Wrestling Inc.
Hey, Matt.
Getting back to Collision, do you have any goals, expectations regarding TV ratings for those shows, and how do you think it will compare to Dynamite?
It's a great question. Really, at this point, we only have the shows we've done on Saturdays to go off of, and we've had some good events on Saturdays, but I think it's different because we've never really locked in a time slot. So I'm really optimistic. I would think it could do better than the best Dynamites on Saturdays. So we've had Saturday night Dynamites, and I look at those ratings, and I think, well, we've done some really good numbers on those Saturdays, and if we lock in a time slot and say we're doing this every week, then I think we can do those numbers or better, and especially knowing that it's going to be a fixed time slot. So I'm super optimistic, and I think Dynamite, we're going to keep doing the great shows we've been doing, and I believe the show can get stronger and stronger. Last week was a great rating, and going into the summer, like I was saying, with some of the sports competition and some of the reality competition changing and opening up, I think it's going to be a great time for Dynamite, and then feed off that momentum with a second show with Collision, as far as two 2-hour live shows, and keep Rampage going. And I really believe this can get the roster going and help get Rampage strong too. So as far as the ratings, I'm not sure because we haven't really had that much experience on Saturdays, but what we've had good ratings at times on Saturdays for doing Dynamites, Rampages, Battle of the Belts, and I really believe we can do even better than those. And those have been successful experiments that were so successful that they said, why don't we give you 2 hours every Saturday? And so I think that's going to bode really well for us, especially with all the great stuff we have planned for Collision.
Just a couple more here. Anyone didn't ask questions?
Yeah, you haven't got you yet.
Hey Tony, how's it going? Adrian Hernandez, Odyssey Sports. I know you talked to a million people, but I want to thank you when tickets went on sale. We had a phone interview. In that phone interview, I'd asked you about someone who's very familiar to Turner and TNT who would become a free agent, which is Goldberg. Obviously, all in, a lot of eyes, a lot of people are going to be in the building. I just want to know, since that, which was about 6 or 7 weeks ago, Have you had a conversation with him just about anything, and nothing in particular, but just a conversation with him?
Yeah, I have talked to Bill. And, I mean, I wouldn't be that unusual. I've talked to Bill when he's not been under contract at times, and have a good relationship with Bill. So I have had a good conversation with him, but I've had a lot of great conversations with Bill. You know, Bill's family have done a lot of great things in Jacksonville. Bill's related to the Wolfson family, who built the Wolfson's Children's Hospital in Jacksonville, and Bill's great former football star, and I work in football, and it's a big part of my life. So we have a lot in common, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and I have a really good relationship with Bill, so I like him a lot. As to what I've talked to him about, I would say that's just between the two of us. But I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, I have, and it was a good chat. I like Bill a lot. He's a great guy. Thank you. I haven't got you all day.
Thank you, Tony. Joe Camparelli.
Hey, Joe.
Just with release of a new show, more TV time, video game, bigger gates, have you sensed a bigger sense of competition or intensity amidst the talent backstage?
I think it's an exciting time. It's always really competitive, and it's gotten more and more competitive. It was, when we were doing the show in Daly's Place, which is kind of a small set, I think it took on maybe the mindset of a territory at times. We were doing the same place every week. A lot of the same fans were coming in because we were the first place to really open up and have fans in every week, but they were a lot of the people coming in Jacksonville. So like when you do a territory studio wrestling show, it took on that identity a little bit, I thought. And the crew really was very tight-knit. And then going back on the road, I think it was hard. And then around the time when we went back on the road, a lot of the biggest names in pro wrestling showed up around the same time. And like Bryan Danielson, who's one of the people I'm referring to, he came here and he saw the company and he's seen it grow and he's grown with it. And a lot of the stars have grown and changed in that time. Like you said, the company has hit new milestones. So it's a great question. Like you said, record gates. We're going into new places for the first time, visiting new towns, and the video games coming out. So it's a very, very transformative year. And on top of all of it, now with Collision starting just weeks away on June 17th, every Saturday we're going to have a show. It's going to change my life, I know that, and I'm excited about it. And for a lot of wrestling fans, it maybe not change everyone's life, but certainly it's going to affect their week. It's going to affect the way they think about their week, and I'm excited about that. That's pretty cool. And I believe the company's changing, but I think this is a great opportunity. It's very competitive. It has been. It was competitive in Daly's Place, but I think when we went back on the road, things got a little more competitive as it opened up, and maybe everyone became a little less familiar. And I think now is a really exciting time because it's been competitive for all the spots on 3 hours of TV. We've got people coming in. We're bringing some stars back you haven't seen recently. That's no secret. We've talked about that. It's the creative concepts, the advertising. We've featured some people in the ads who you haven't seen on AEW TV recently, and I think that's exciting. So there's going to be competition for spot in the 5 hours, but there was already a lot of competition for spots in the 3 hours. So I think it's going to stay competitive, but in some ways this should and has, I believe, made a lot of people feel good that it's more opportunities for them. Maybe it's a little bit more realistic for these people who've really been working so hard to get a chance on TV. I think now there's a little bit more light at the end of that tunnel. They see, hey, this could work out for me. This is a big opportunity for me if I play my cards right and work really hard. Thank you.
Two more for anyone who has
Hey Tony, John Arkill with Screen Rant. First of all, thank you for your time and thank you for this amazing show tonight. I'm wondering about AEW All Access. What your impressions were of that show, whether it be season 2. This show seemed to really give Sammy Guevara and Britt and Adam a boost. So I was wondering what your thoughts on the show were.
Thank you for asking. I thought AEW All Access went really well. It was very positively received by our network bosses. I don't know yet what the status will be for future seasons, but I think how well the show performed bodes well. It held up well throughout the season, and then we had a really nice bump for the season finale. So to go off with a high note, and I think it did a .12, which was great, and for the last episode. So it started hot and ended hot, so hopefully bodes well for the show for the future. I would certainly be up to do another season, future seasons, and profile some of the great wrestlers we've already introduced and potentially some different people in addition. So I really enjoyed working on All Access, and I would love to do that again. Thank you.
Last question.
Hey Tony, AEW WrestleJoy. Congratulations on a great show. So when we look at Double or Nothing, we have to talk about where it all began. In Las Vegas, you've had an incredible, this is your 5th Double or Nothing, you've had an incredible time with a lot of achievements in AEW. And I was curious if that goes into how you book Double or Nothing show. So for example, tonight during the Four Pillars match, we had a lot of moments where each of the 4 pillars used moves that their mentors had used, for example, or we had spots in Anarchy in the Arena that called back to the very first Double or Nothing. So I was curious, when you book Double or Nothing, do you look back and reflect on the history of AEW and big spots and moments, and specifically book the show to call back and kind of tell a story of celebration of AEW?
Yeah, not every single match, but there were definitely moments on the card where the whole 4 pillars match in and of itself is looking back at the history of AEW, and then, like you said, when they started hitting their mentors' moves, that was a great signature moment and a signature match that really called back to the history of AEW. Anarchy in the Arena is a match that has history, and like I said, it's evolved from Stadium Stampede, and as our fans came back, Stadium Stampede evolved from year 1 to year 2, where we brought it back and actually brought it out into the live arena, which nobody was expecting, and then from that it evolved into Anarchy in the Arena when we moved back into the live arenas every week. And I think there were a lot of callbacks to the history of AEW in that match, and very fitting to go back to the first Double or Nothing, where AEW really started. At the very first show we did was here in Vegas, and that show ended culminating with Jon Moxley arriving in AEW and throwing Kenny Omega off the giant poker chips, and then tonight here they were back out there again on the Double or Nothing set. So it was a great callback, in Anarchy in the Arena. Even it's interesting because the violence and intensity of the Blackpool Combat Club, even looking how they changed over a year, because Brian said he wanted to look at the intensity, but I think that's probably because when Brian looks within himself, he doesn't want to admit now he's grown a lot over a year. But the fact is, Brian was the one who stopped him from setting Eddie from setting Chris on fire last year. And now, at where Brian's at right now, I think Brian would have probably lit the match. So I think that also showed growth. Maybe not growth, but it definitely showed evolution and change in Brian. And then in the opening battle royal, which was so great and I really enjoyed it, I thought there were a lot of callbacks to great historical moments, not just the rivalries in AEW right now, seeing, of course, Swerve and Keith going at it, and with Brian Cage and Dustin getting involved as they have in that recently, or with Juice and Jay and Ricky Starks, and keeping that situation going, and it's an interesting thing happening there. But also going back to old rivalries, just an example, Orange Cassidy and Kip were going at it, and they've had a lot of battles, whether it was a different Arcade Anarchy, and where Statlander referenced that earlier when she made her return, jumping out of the stuffed animals, and really how that evolved and changed. And then Orange and Kip, that rivalry had gone into the All Atlantic Championship, and they'd had that great match, and Orange, from the All Atlantic Championship to the International Championship, has made a lot of defenses, and I think you actually noted earlier some of his top opponents and some of his best matches as the champion during this great run he's had. They came face to face with him in this match, dealing with Lee and in particular Big Bill near the end, and like I said, Kip Sabian, and a lot of great stuff, and of course how he's wrestled Bandito and then became a great partner with Bandito and the Best Amigos. I thought that was great. So a lot of great callbacks, a lot of great moments. Jay White eliminating Commander. I thought Commander had a great showcase early in the match, but then his elimination was a callback to Jay White's debut in AEW. So yeah, there's a lot of thought put into the show, I think. And if ever you're going to look back at the history of the company and try to put those kind of moments in for the fans, this is where you want to do it, here where it all started. So I thought that was very, very cool. Well, it's great being with you all. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you for all staying here, and I appreciate everybody coming to cover the show. You know, without all of you, this really wouldn't be possible. When we started AEW, a lot of you were covering the company when it was just an idea. We had never done an event yet, and then a lot of you were at the first Double or Nothing when there was no track record whatsoever other than the great work the wrestlers had done before they came to AEW. So I just wanted to thank you all, and really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. It means a lot, and a lot of you had a lot to do with us getting off the ground, so thank you.
Thank you.